Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Today what we're going to do is we're going to go through the Singapore government deep dive sessions. My name is Chris. I'm a recruiter with GovTech and I help our data science division and apps development teams with their recruitment efforts. And I will be your host for this session. Our sessions today feature various government agencies within the Singapore government which operate within the tech domain. Now, as we are hosting simultaneous sessions, we want to make sure that you are in the right session and the session that you really want to hear from. Right now, you're in a session that will talk about software engineering and data science. Now, today, we're going to start with our sessions regarding software engineering. And in an hour's time, we will start to cover our data science topics. All right, now let's cut to the chase. We'll start off with a short intro by Deputy Secretary Tan Kok Yam, who will share about opportunities and challenges presented by Singapore's Smart Nation journey. Enjoy the video.
A warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us at the recruitment session of the Singapore Tech Forum 2020. Why are we so keen to recruit? During this COVID year, the answer to that cannot be more evident. We have been fortunate to be able to rapidly deploy digital solutions to help in the effort to keep the country safe, precisely because we have a strong core of engineers to rely on. From digital contact tracing, trace together and safe entry, to channels of communications, our engineers have been able to deliver. By strong, I don't just mean strong individuals who are technically capable and creative. That's important, of course, but I also mean a strong team willing to support one another, whether we're in GovTech, DSTA, IHIS, or anywhere else in government, willing to work shoulder to shoulder with the policy and operational teams in government, willing to go the extra mile, willing to take on crazy deadlines, and willing to do not just visible, exciting work, but often the back-breaking but necessary work of organizing data, formatting the standards, getting systems to just talk to each other. All of this because they know that they are not here simply to sell a product or catch the most eyeballs, but they are here to play their part, to protect the public, to allow the country to reopen. And we are recruiting because there's so much more to be done. The public sector has much to do, help the economy recover and thrive, assist those in need, businesses under pressure, ensure a sustainable green recovery. Digital technology alone is not the silver bullet to all of this, of course, but it will have a big role to play in terms of enabling the use of data to understand the situation, creating the platforms to better communicate, coordinate, and collaborate with citizens, building the infrastructure to allow policy to be implemented in an agile manner. So we need good people to join us, to be builders, creators, engineers, to build the tools, overhaul our architecture, exploit the capabilities of cloud, defend against cyber attacks. And this is why we are so keen on recruiting. But why should you join us? For one, working in tech in Singapore government gives you the first-hand experience of how tech can contribute to the public good. It gives you opportunities to use your skills and your knowledge of technology to directly impact and improve businesses and citizens' lives. Being part of the whole nation effort to develop Singapore into a smart nation, this role in the public will promise a sense of meaning and purpose that few tech companies can offer. Second, we will provide opportunities to nurture and deepen your technical skills. We are building competency-based performance frameworks that recognize demonstrated technical competency. We're also allowing engineers flexibility to choose a path within government, be it being a specialist that focuses on building depth and expertise in a particular domain, such as in machine learning, software engineering, cybersecurity, or product management, or to be a chief information officer or chief technology officer to lead teams in developing technical solutions that bring about change in an agency, in a ministry, in a state board. Third, we have a range of jobs to offer in government, different challenges in different aspects of what the government does, which range across various agencies. So allow me to cite some examples. In GovTech, if you join GovTech, you will help us transform the public sector, turn the idea of a smart nation digital government into reality. By joining GovTech, you can make a difference to the everyday lives of citizens, businesses, and communities. In IMDA, if you join IMDA, you can look forward to playing a critical role in shaping Singapore's infocom media landscape and chart the way ahead for our digital economy. You will help drive transformation for our SMEs and our enterprises. Now, as Singapore becomes increasingly connected with our millions of smartphones and Internet of Things devices, Singaporeans and organizations are increasingly susceptible to sophisticated cyber attacks. Hence, we also need talented cybersecurity professionals to safeguard our landscape, our digital landscape. By joining CSA, you will be entrusted with the task of keeping Singapore's cyberspace safe and secure. And of course, this is not all the jobs that are in government. We want to offer one career, infinite opportunities, where you join us, allowing you to move from domain to broaden your personal experience and exposure, and of course, to make the best use of your expertise. There are different tech career opportunities for you to explore across different domains. You'll solve real business problems with a technical lens and move the needle on national issues ranging from defense and cybersecurity, economic development and tourism, to housing, transport, and healthcare. So I want to end by a caveat. I want to say that I'm not speaking to you as a government engineer with the knowledge of a career of an engineer in government. Now, when you engage in the deep dive sessions later, I hope you have the opportunities to speak to the real guys, the engineers, those at the front line, hear from them on their actual experience. Some have joined us from day one, others from industry, and you can ask them about their encounters in the public service, what they are happy or unhappy about, what their experience have been, and how what they have learned in the private sector has helped. Now, as an administrator working with engineers, I can tell you that we're beginning to build a culture that respects and recognizes deep engineering capabilities and skills within government. So no longer is IT a backroom function to fix broken laptops, but it's a strategic capability to allow us to serve our citizens better. We have much to improve, of course, but that's why these engineers are here with us, to make things better. And we hope that some of you can consider joining them. So now, allow me to pass the time to the MC to kickstart the sessions into the various domain areas proper. Thank you.
All right. Hope you enjoyed the video. Short yet insightful. And it actually tells you what we're going to do for the next hour or so. Kok Yam mentioned many different agencies, and we're going to meet people from the different agencies who will share with you their work and how they change lives of Singaporeans on a daily basis. Now, before we start, I'm going to run through a few house rules and also share with you a few do's and don'ts. First things first, we are actually recording today's session, so just keep that in mind. Now, I'm going to run through 3 different rules with you today. Firstly, the one that's very important, we want to hear from you. So we want to hear your questions, your thoughts. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A chat. Now, it gets confusing sometimes. There is a chat panel, there's a Q&A panel. But if you want us to, get the right people to get the right answers to you, please put it in the Q&A box instead. Also, when you're asking questions, please ensure that you put the agency before your question. For example, if you want to ask my colleagues from GovTech a question, put GovTech, where's your office? Or IMDA, why do you do this? What we can do is that we can then streamline the questions and get it to the right people who will give you the best answers. Lastly, we are all here to learn from one another, and we're also here to have a good time. Now, we hope that everybody will be courteous and also will be kind and understanding to one another during this webinar. Well, time is of the essence today. We don't have all night, unfortunately. But what we're going to do is that for all the questions that we're unable to answer on our Slack channel, we will then bring it to Slack and we will get our folks to answer it there. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to start off. Firstly, I'm going to invite my colleagues from GovTech, Pat and Joel. Pat is a UX designer. Joel is a software engineer, and they're going to share with you what they do on a day-to-day basis over here. Pat and Joel, please.
Okay, thank you. So hi, everyone, and good morning, afternoon, and evening. You're joining us from different parts of the world. Very happy to be here to share about GovTech, Government Digital Services, and our work. So a very quick introduction. My name is Patricia, and I'm a UX design lead, a product manager for one of the product called Supply Ally in GovTech. I'll share more about it in the slides later. So I've been here in GovTech for close to 2 years now. Before joining GovTech, I came from a private sector for more than a decade before joining. And I also talk a little bit about my experience here as a UX designer in the later on slides. For now, I'll just hand over the time to Joel, my colleague, to introduce himself and talk a little bit more about our organization.
Hi, I'm Joel. Thanks, Pat. I'm a software engineer at GovTech, and like many of you, I was based in the US for some time. I studied computer science at Stanford and then interned and worked in the Bay Area. I joined GovTech because I love the idea of being able to focus on building products that tangibly improve people's lives. I'll talk a bit about GovTech before Pat and I share about our personal experience. At GovTech, Pat and I are part of Government Digital Services, a group of 400 designers, engineers, product managers, and scrum masters. We work closely with government agencies to build products and services that improve the lives of Singaporeans. Here's a look at our office pre-COVID. My favorite part is really the mantra we have on the wall: be happy and be awesome. And just as importantly, help others around you to be happy and awesome too. Now, GDS has hundreds of people, but on a day-to-day basis, we work in small product teams of about 10 people each. We call them squads, and each squad is cross-functional, which means that we have our product managers, designers, software engineers, quality engineers, all on the same team. Cross-functional also means that we encourage people to take on secondary roles. For example, backend engineers who dabble in infra or front-end engineers who touch a bit of design. We find that focusing on cross-functionality helps to build a cohesive team where everyone chips in to whatever needs to be done, instead of a more siloed us versus them mentality. Our teams are also self-organizing, so we believe when we hire good people and we design feedback loops into the process, we can give teams the autonomy to find their way to the objectives, right? So in each product team organizes themselves slightly differently based on what works best for them. Now, what do the squads work on? In GDS, we're working on more than 30 products, but here's just some of them. On the left, you have Apex, which is API Exchange, and it's part of a whole tech stack we're building to level up digital products across government. Then we also have a group of citizen-facing products, including My Careers Future and LifeSG. LifeSG allows new parents to register their baby's birth, apply for baby bonus, and also check the child's immunization records all in one place, so that parents can spend more time with their newborn and less on government forms. Business Grants Portal and Go Business are some of the business-facing products we have, so it makes it easier to do business in Singapore. For example, if a business wanted to get grants in the past, they will need to figure out which grant is relevant to them, which agency was the one that provided that grant, and then go to the agency's website and apply for it. Now they just go to the Business Grants Portal and they tell us about their business, and then we tell them how government can help them. This year, we've also been busy with a slew of products to help the fight against COVID. These include Trace Together and Safe Entry and Supply Ally. Pat will tell you a bit more about her experience working on Supply Ally.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. So I mentioned earlier that I'm the product manager for Supply Ally. So there's something that's closer to my heart. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about this product. So we actually developed this as a mobile application to be used by volunteers during the COVID season. At that point, it was because there was a nation demand or nationwide distribution of masks. And we did that in April, and the team actually, individuals of engineers came together and put together this product to be used by volunteers during these give outs. So it was done within barely a week. And this Tech for Public Good initiative actually helps to keep a record of the items that were distributed. It cuts down manual tracking. So previously, before using the app, there were quite a number of times, in those distributions, it was tracked through manual tracking. So Supply Ally actually ensures that no one collects beyond their entitlement as well. So we do this tracking digitally. So when the pandemic hits, I think it's the time that I really see GovTech in action and how different teams who are actually working on different products that Joel mentioned earlier came together and formed teams to develop these digital products to mitigate the impact of the pandemic. And like he mentioned, Trace Together, Safe Entry, Supply Ally, some of these products that came out of this season actually. So if you go to the next slide, I'm going to share my experience in GovTech as a UX designer. So that's my other hat. So beyond designing for citizens, many times when we talk about designing, the UX designers and the government agencies, we'll be thinking about just designing for citizens. But actually a large part of our work include designing for public officers to improve their work processes. And one example is that we create back-end processing systems that allow officers to process these applications effectively and then disperse the funds to the applicants easily. So public officers' experiences sometimes are neglected. So in GovTech projects, we find out the officers' needs through user interviews or usability testing. For example, when they process claims, they want to be told what are some of the gaps in the application. So we look into these requirements of the user's needs and then introduce features in the products that we're building to help them with it. So the second point is like we are very integrated in our agile teams. So people may be questioning like, why would UX designer be integrated in the agile teams when you're not doing the coding and stuff? So UX designers will work very closely with our agency partners. So we perform product discovery workshops, and then we uncover user needs before kickstarting the sprint. So the moment we begin development, we work closely with the software engineers to refine user stories, perform desk checks on the developed user stories. So like Joel mentioned earlier, this level of collaboration, not just within a role, but multifunctional teams coming together is what draws me to GovTech. And beyond just working on design recommendations and passing on to another team to work on it, we actually come together and work quite closely together. And we get to see how the products, the digital products that we build is impacting the users that are using them. So that has been an exciting journey for me so far. And I just want to pass the time over to Joel. What is a software engineer like here in GDS?
Sure. Thanks, Pat. Well, government systems last a long time. And so as a software engineer in GovTech, we need to build to last. So there's a huge focus on maintainability and good software engineering practices. Everything test-driven development, pair programming, right? We also use modern technologies, and we pick technologies that are best fit for each product. And so across GDS, you'll see things like Golang, Node, React, Ruby on Rails, depending on what the use case of each product is. All teams, of course, do CI/CD for a good feedback loop, and we try to make DevOps a culture so that everyone has a responsibility for what they deploy. There are so many interesting technical challenges that different teams face. My personal experience this year has been as a tech lead on TraceTogether, the Bluetooth contact tracing app. And this was a completely novel use of Bluetooth. And so there were many challenges we faced along the way. Everything from architecting a cryptographic protocol that balanced privacy and utility to dealing with the zoo of mobile devices. And you can see some of that zoo here. And calibrating our transmission powers in an anechoic chamber. ASA was kind enough to lend us their anechoic chamber, as you see here. To developing an algorithm, right? They would then take in the Bluetooth data and predict which devices have been in close contact. And the technical challenges are not unique to TraceTogether. For example, we have many large, very gnarly legacy systems in government that have little test coverage or documentation. So it's very hard for the code to change to accommodate new policy changes. And so it's a huge technical challenge to migrate these systems over to modern architectures while making sure they continue to provide essential services to the citizens. It's a bit like changing the engines of a 747 in mid-flight, right? You have to make sure it continues to fly, but you're making these huge changes. We also have teams working on more experimental things, blockchain technologies, for example. And they face quite a lot of novel challenges when trying to put cross-border trade documents and education certs on the blockchain. So there's lots of fun stuff to do as an engineer. I'll end off on a bit of a personal reflection. I think for me, the biggest privilege of working at GovTech is that I can be in a small entrepreneurial product team that at the same time has the resources, reach, and impact of government, right? TraceTogether, for example, in January, it was just an idea tossed around in our chat groups. We decided to test it out and build some prototypes. And as that showed promise, it quickly grew to a national product launch. And Singapore was the first in the world to release a Bluetooth contact tracing app. And then there was a lot of interest around the world. So we open sourced and released a white paper. And fast forward to today, right? Just a few months later, 50 countries around the world now have Bluetooth contact tracing apps, some even based on our open source code. The Ministry of Health has used it to pick up tens of thousands of close contacts of COVID-19 patients. And I think if we were just a strong product team, we would have a strong product, but chances are we wouldn't have this scale. And most products, and most governments have the scale, but they are not conducive environments for small entrepreneurial product teams. So I think to be in an environment where you can bring those two together, I think for me, that's what I really find magical. If you'd like to find out more about GovTech, you can hit Pat and I up on Slack. I think we have about 2 minutes left, so we can take some questions.
I think, okay, I think I saw a question by Gabriel on the chat, the Q&A. He asked, how is job demands and work-life balance like in GovTech? Joel, you want to share your views?
Job demands and work-life balance. I imagine it's quite what you make of it, and it depends on the project and the season. Yeah.
Right. So just to add on to that, I mean, we're in this season where we have many national projects that is to mitigate the pandemic. So work does get hectic, but I think the fun part of it is you get to, like what Joel mentioned, you get to work on products that is interesting, and you work with teams that are all very driven and working closely together. So that helps motivate that the balance.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I think with COVID, then there's a lot of, things come very fast, and the COVID situation has been evolving rapidly, and so there has been a lot of overtime that a lot of teams have been sacrificing, for these COVID products. But that's not the norm. And with the products I was working on before, we do the agile process and we plan backlogs ahead, maybe 3-6 months, and so then there is a stable, predictable workload for the months ahead. We also make sure that we cater about 20% of the time for innovation projects, for engineers growth, right? People going on courses. And I think it's that catering of 20% of the time for organizational slack that's also what allows things like Trace Together and Supply Ally to then come about, right? Because people will have time and space to be trying out new things or learning new things. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Joel and Pat, for your sharings, about life at GovTech and also a bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis. Now, moving on, let's invite our next speaker. Our next speaker will be Kim Yuan. Kim Yuan's from IMDA, and he's an executive manager who's the practice lead for the DevSecOps as well. So let's hear from Kim Yuan right now.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm the lead for DevSecOps, as highlighted. At the IMDA Digital Services Lab. Today, I'll be talking about the ML Ops. Yes, so what do we do at Digital Services Lab or DSL? Our key aim is to strengthen the global competitiveness of Singapore's services sector, i.e. the SMEs. And how we do that is we co-develop technology solutions with multiple industry stakeholders and the local research community. And as we build new technological capabilities, we also train a pipeline of tech talents, which we hope that when they go on to the industry, they will help propagate what they've learned so far. The focus of DSL has always been the industry, and these are some examples of the DSL projects that are either already completed or are being transitioned to the industry. And from the examples listed here, you can see that we build a lot of projects or a lot of products with AI and ML component in it, machine learning. Just to delve a bit further, so these are some examples of the AI and ML solutions that has been implemented by DSL. First, we have the scene understanding, where we build video analytics with machine learning tech to provide mobile robots, autonomous mobile robots or AMRs, with real-time information about their dynamic environment so that they can navigate safely in public. We've also built the National Speech Corpus, which is a repository of locally accented, i.e. Singapore accented speech data, which can be used for machine learning in speech-related tech and achieving high accuracy rates in the local context. And the third example I have is the intelligent building proactive energy management. So it is essentially AI-driven tech which provides smart data analytics to help building operators to implement effective maintenance schedules. So my colleague, Dr. Chris Choi, will be delving deeper into these examples in his talk in about 1.5 hours from now. So please stay tuned for that. It's going to be very interesting. So our focus today is ML Ops. I myself, I'm more of a DevOps guy, DevSecOps guy. And ML Ops was also I was very new to ML Ops. And a lot of the work that I'm presenting right now are actually the result of the work from our data scientists and our machine learning engineers and data engineers. Okay, so there is a definition of ML Ops provided on Martin Fowler's website. You can have a look at this. Key differences from DevOps, there's a cross-functional team On top of software engineers, you also have data scientists and data engineers as part of the team, right? And besides just code, you're also working with data as well as AI models. So looking at this diagram, there are several stages of ML ops. First, we build the model. We feed some training data and using a training code to build models. And out of this, we get a set of candidate models. And then we put these candidate models through evaluation and experimentation. We feed more data, test data to it, and experiment with different parameters and with the data. And from there, we get a set of candidate models with their own set of metrics. And by measuring the metrics and looking at the results, we select a model to productionize. And of course, we will still have to test it with more test data. And finally, we deploy it and package it together with application code and deploy it. But the story doesn't end there. We still need to monitor the production data and continuously feed back to the model, because models, the real life environment might change. If, for example, this ML tech is using IoT sensor data to build the AI model, the sensors may degrade over time. So the data will change, and therefore the AI models may also be less accurate over time. So we have to continue feeding back data to improve the model and refine it. So as I highlighted earlier, there are key difference in DevOps. From DevOps is that the data is always changing. Therefore, it's absolutely important for us to have robust versioning for the training data, the parameters, as well as the codes, to ensure that we can reproduce the AI model verbatim. DSL views ML ops as a critical capability in order for us to deliver ML solutions to the industry quickly, effectively, and at scale. And we view ML technology like ML is important for our SMEs to be able to compete globally. Okay, we only started our journey in ML ops about less than 6 months ago. And so these are our immediate goals. We want to accelerate time to market. So in order to do that, we leverage on existing ML frameworks and tooling, both commercial and open source. We don't want to build them from scratch. We also want accountability and reproducibility of the AI models. So we rigorously version the data, the parameters, the code, and the AI models. Data collection is a very resource-intensive, labor-intensive task. So we want to optimize that. We have identified classes of AI problems where a common data set can be reused for similar problems within a class. For example, if you're looking at machine vision, we might collect data that can be applied to different machine vision projects. So that's where we try to work at as well. And finally, pipeline reusability. We built an ML ops pipeline for our particular use case, but we want it to be something that we can templatize and reuse for other AI projects in the same class. So for example, an object detection pipeline, speech recognition pipeline. So this is an example of a machine vision object detection use case that we have and that we have built. This is in fact, our first ML ops pipeline that we built. So this is a general AI ML system for object detection where we get images from the internet, we acquire them, and we annotate the images, we label them, and we store it in some large storage area, for example, S3. And at the data pre-processing stage, we do validation checks on the data and split the data into training and test sets. And then we go through, put them through model training. We use a lot of Python with tools like PyTorch and TensorFlow in our model training, where we train and evaluate the model and produce the results. And we have several candidates models, and we store the containerized selected model into a Docker repository. And then we have a workflow that routes these results to a reviewer. After the reviewer has reviewed the logs, the metrics, and approves it, the system will then retrieve that containerized model, AI model, package it, and deploy it to an API server to a demo site. So this is what we have built so far. And some of the tools and the learnings that we've gotten along the way. So for data acquisition, we collect from sources like Google, Bing, Baidu, Flickr, and YouTube. And we are also exploring the usage of synthetic image generation. So instead of just collecting, we are getting ML technology to build and generate new images of, for example, safety cones and wheelchairs. As for the data and model versioning that I highlighted earlier, we are using DVC, an open source tool for the data versioning. It's well suited for large data sets and good for data reproducibility, and it integrates very nicely with Git and S3, which suits us just fine. We are also using the Git submodule feature to segregate the data set and the DVC configuration from the ML projects. So we could use the same data set for multiple ML projects, and just by using the Git submodule as a reference to the same common set of data. And this addresses our requirement for reuse very well. As for the pipeline, the overall pipeline, we first assess Kedro, but it turned out to be not a good fit for us. Kedro requires an ML algorithm to be decomposed into submodules, nodes, and then you'll need to assemble the nodes into a pipeline before you can use it as a Kedro pipeline. And this is tough for us because we tend to use well-known open source ML algorithms. We just refine them for our purpose. And these algorithms are typically not well suited to be decomposed. You bring in additional complexity and issues. So finally, we did not adopt Kedro, but we found that the project structure proposed by Kedro was pretty good. So we decided to adopt that project structure as our standard for all our ML projects. And finally, Kedro, we find that Kedro is great for building new ML code from the ground up. For testing and validation, we do model validation as highlighted earlier, model validation. We also do memory consistency to ensure that there are no memory leaks for the ML model, as well as prediction latency, where we measure the time the AI model takes to return the results, and we try to ensure that it doesn't degrade over time. And finally, we are currently assessing a commercial cloud-based platform to provide the end-to-end orchestration of all these ML ops activities that you see here. And these two can do stuff such as spinning up VMs with the required CPU and memory just long enough for it to train the AI models before spinning them down again. It integrates well with DVC. It keeps track of the ML experiments just like ML flow, and it's able to generate API endpoints to our AI models, which we think is excellent for building demo sites quickly, and it helps our outreach to the industry. So in summary, these are the lessons learned along the way. Firstly, we don't restrict ourselves to just open source solutions. Although we started off from open source, we decided to check out this commercial platform, and it turned out to be quite a worthwhile investment. It freed up our data scientists and data ML engineers to focus on the core ML work. Second, even if we end up not using a tool, learn what we can from it and adapt it for a purpose, as what we did for Kedro. And thirdly, we always look for opportunities to make improvements. We are barely half a year into this journey, so there are still quite a number of capabilities that we need to work on. Firstly, we need to create more ML ops pipeline templates for other types, for other ML archetypes, for example, speech recognition. What you saw earlier was for object detection. We need to build an end-to-end continuous deployment for machine learning pipeline. What we have now ends at the demo site, but what we want to do is to be able to have it extend to build a productionized application, as well as the feedback from the observability. Thirdly, we are working on integrating the pipeline with a data catalog and data sources to automate and streamline data search and ingestion. And lastly, we are creating additional channels to serve the AI models. For example, embeddable serialized model, as well as creating AI sandboxes with the AI model in there for collaborators to play with. And yep, that's all I have for this presentation today. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Kim Yuan, for sharing. I think from your sharing alone and from Joel's sharing and also Pat's, right, I realized that we do a ton of cool stuff. But one thing we have more than cool stuff is acronyms. I think the number of acronyms I've heard today is mind-blowing. If you probably had a packet of M&Ms and you started eating them every time you heard or saw an acronym, you might finish the packet halfway through this whole tech forum. Now, going to our next speaker, we have Tan Tai Kia. Tai Kia is currently a director at CSIT, and he's with their data science and product development team. Let's call him on board.
Yep. Hello, hello everyone. Yep. Happy to see all of you here. Yep, and connect with all of you via Zoom and over Slack channel as well. Yeah, I mean, I saw some of you guys over Slack channel saying that you miss the food over at Singapore, especially when you're overseas, like prata, laksa, all that. And now it's like 1 a.m. in Singapore, really much the best time for prata. And I'm always happy for supper like this, but really even happier to have this opportunity to speak to you here. Yep. So short intro about myself. Currently, I take care of data science and product development in CSIT. I joined CSIT when I first graduated about 15 years ago, and having went to a few places in between, right? I'm back here doing what resonates with me most and what I find really meaningful. And you know, as an engineer, we like to build things, and in my own humble opinion, few things are more important to me than building a national capability. Like sometimes people ask me what sparks joy in me. I kind of get a high when I see people, technologies achieving their fullest potential, and therefore applying technologies to mission critical problems, building teams, creating an environment to develop fellow Singaporeans to the best that they can be. These are really the things that I like to do and things that I really get to do here in CSIT today. So in the next 7 minutes or so, 10 minutes or so maybe, what I want to do is to give everyone a glimpse of what is it like to be in CSIT, what do we do here? Like CSIT actually, okay, I'm trying to move the slide. Okay, yep, great. Yep. CSIT is actually an agency in MINDEF that conducts applied research, and we build products that harness cutting edge digital technologies to meet the country's national security needs. And I guess if agencies like GovTech uses technology to make Singapore a better place to live in CSIT, we use technology to make Singapore a safer place to live in. We defend key national IT systems and networks against sophisticated cyber attacks. We identify and defend terrorism attacks and threats against Singapore. That's what we do. And in CSIT, we deal with a number of things. We have a few areas of expertise like cybersecurity, software engineering, data analytics, cloud infrastructure and services. And today I'm going to speak specifically in the area of software engineering. Yep. In the area of software engineering, we explore the latest technology and use it to solve problems unique to us. We build products that find value from various data sources, very large data sources, and present insights in meaningful ways for deeper understanding and for well-informed decision making. And through that, we make sense of threats to national security. So these 4 terms on the slide will probably be familiar with most of you in this audience. But maybe I'll talk more a bit about what I feel presents a uniquely CSIT flavor in this aspect. Cloud native application development, yeah, we develop things that they place well with the cloud, leverages on cloud technology. But one thing really unique about us is that we have all our analysts, all our cyber threat investigators, all our engineers, product managers, all under one roof in one organization. And as such, we have the opportunity to work very closely with the end users, tailoring the user experience to meet the skills of the users and the needs of specific missions. I mean, an analogy that I sometimes like to use is that it almost feels like designing like a specialized pair of soccer boots for a soccer player that maximizes his strength based on how he plays. And of course, this is an extreme scenario. We don't quite develop a customized app for every user. That would be very resource intensive, but you roughly get a drift on where we are coming from. We design specifically for certain mission needs and not just a big group of users. DevOps, one aspect of running DevOps team is designing products that's not just for end users, but designing for the application so that it's easily supportable. Like products, usually we maintain them for a long haul, and therefore having such discipline in software engineering is important. But we take it a bit further than this. And because in our products, At times, we even need to change things on the fly to help our investigators or end users succeed in their mission. And it feels almost like we are an entire F1 team, where as the engineering team, we do not stop at just manufacturing the car, but we are also at a pit stop. And when the environment change, the operations conditions change, we change the tires, etc., to give the users an even chance, higher chance of success in their mission. And search engine technology, data visualization, like technology though already awesome, but in most cases, as we all know, is imperfect. And to solve problems, it's often about how we piece the technologies together in a way that makes sense to overcome this imperfection. And that's where I see data visualization lies, to present data in a way that harness the best of both human and computers. These are some of the few areas which I felt is great, that makes CSIT a great place to work in. Yep. Career, we provide continuous personal and professional training throughout your career, so that as an organization, we stay relevant in this fast-changing tech environment. We are as strong as our people, and when we grow our people, we are also strong as an organization. We encourage job rotations where engineers get to deepen themselves in more than one area of expertise, having a stint sometimes even in operations and business to understand what the users are facing firsthand. We cater for people who may have different aspirations. Some may love deepening themselves in their technical expertise. Some may be very passionate about core work of managing people, building teams. Yep. So we cater for people who want different career paths. Still, in the end, we believe that engineers learn by solving problems, and we do have really tough problems here. And I believe that's why we have built a strong team of engineers that have grown with us over time as they solve really difficult problems in the organization. Yep. And community and culture, we encourage everyone to pursue innovation, surface idea, bring it to fruition. In fact, we have initiatives that enables people to form teams, work together on innovative solutions, and they are given protected time to do so during their working hours. We realize that actually top leaders, sometimes we do not know all the answers, all the pain points, and all the things that's happening on the ground. And sometimes really good ideas surface from such initiatives when people on the ground come together and just work on the problem, innovate, and then make things happen. Yeah. And career, community, culture, these are all great reasons to be part of CSIT. But for me, what really takes the cake and what makes us different from the rest would be cost. Expertise, technical skills are all great, but what makes it come to life, brings meaning to expertise and technical skills is when you find a meaningful cause to apply it to, a purpose that resonates with you deeply. And to me, national security is a worthy cause because it allows me to contribute in whatever small way I can, so that me, my family, my friends, people whom I care about, things that they build in Singapore will not disappear overnight. And I guess that's why I'm in CSIT today. Yep. So that's, maybe we could have some Q&A. Yep. Since we have a bit, we should have a few minutes.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for that sharing. I'm tempted to ask you where to get prata from at this hour, but I think I will message you later. So we have one question that is directed to you specifically. I think they're asking whether there's an overlap between CSIT's role and Palantir's offering. Is it a deliberate effort to reduce reliance on one vendor, or what's it like?
Is it a deliberate effort to reduce reliance on one vendor? I think there's stuff in Palantir. I'm not totally familiar with the product, though I've seen it at some point of time. That is true that there are some overlaps, some of the functions, or that are things that we build internally as well. But by and large, one of the reasons why we have our internal software engineering team is because we kind of like customize it to very specific missions and applications within our organization. It's kind of like the last mile thing that sometimes you don't quite get when you get a commercial product off the shelf. And Palantir is a great product, all that, but it's just that we need that certain level of extra mile customization applications, which is why we have our own teams internally to do that.
All right, awesome. So I think one more question will be, when you are recruiting folks to join CSIT, what exactly do you look for? What will make a
Okay.
candidate stand out, in your own interview?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like, I guess it depends on it depends on the team and the product that this person apply for. So we kind of practice what we call team-based recruitment in the sense that when we recruit, we look specifically for certain skill sets that the team like. For example, in a product team, the team may be lacking, hey, let's say a strong backend engineer. They have a very strong front-end engineer, so that. So they will look out for kind of like specific skill sets that fits into the team. But all in all, other than skills, right, team fit is also important. So we'll get a team to really interact with the interviewee, like through video conferences or that, so that they get a feel of whether this person plays well with the current team. So there's an aspect of technical expertise. There's also the aspect of whether this new hire, his personality, is the way he is, that does it gels well with the team that he's going into. I guess after all, software engineering is a team sport to me. Like you could have brilliant individuals, but if you have a great team that works well together, that really makes things click and makes it more fun to be in, and the product will end up to be really much better.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Taikia, for sharing.